Hey, 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 welcome back. Welcome back to the Psychic Soul Shadow Healing Coaching Program. Today, we're going to talk about untangling the shadow of self sabotage in relationships and looking at how these patterns show up, why they persist, and how to actually shift them from calmer, more real connections. And I wanted to talk about self sabotaging behavior because most of the time within our relationships, we see these patterns. We see somebody that doesn't really want to, give the time or the energy. Now, normally this is a part of my subscription plan, but I wanted to do a sample of what it is, the coaching program, the group shadow healing coaching program. It's always I pick a topic and I channel for about 10 minutes. And then we jump into an oracle reading. And then we end off with a healing modality because healing the effects of trauma is not a one and done. It's to understand why things are happening. But we see reoccurring patterns within the readings on this channel. So, like I said, we never really are able to talk about the behaviorism and what creates the behaviorism and what to do to dive deep to really understand it because we don't have the time to do that within the actual readings on the channel. So as I said, I wanted to talk about it because self-sabotaging in relationships isn't just a list of bad habits to fix. It's actually a dialogue between you and really your daily life and a larger field of experiences that include archetypes, sacred wounds, shared wounds, and deep longing for belonging, right? So, what we see a lot of times with self sabotaging behaviorisms is detachment, disassociation, that the person's not really present. They're coming from a lower energy. So really, like I said, when we're diving deep, what we're doing is we're seeing the hidden fears, the attachment patterns, and really the inner critic. And the inner critic is just that mind chatter that tells us why everything is the way that it is. It's not really an accurate voice. The inner critic is mainly built on perceptions that were taught to us. And so, what you'll see a lot of times is the reoccurring karmic pattern is on a core belief that was from a long time ago. So, like I said, when your hidden fears, attachment patterns, and just the inner critic rises, they don't just disrupt your harmony, but they reveal where your healing is actually needed and where your true needs for safety and closeness and autonomy intersect. And really, our autonomy is about who we perceive that we are. Now, to understand this, we start not with labels, but with an invitation to expand how intimacy plays out within our relationship dynamics. Now, what you'll notice is that it always brings out the hidden fears. Hidden fears are powerful, often subtle forces that shape how we relate. They touch our sense of safety, our sense of value, and they question whether we're worthy of closeness. So that's the key. People that have self sabotaging behaviorisms when it comes to relationships don't believe that they're worthy. So they're usually holding on to emotions like guilt, shame, these heavy emotions that are held within the root chakra. And that root chakra is again, it's all about our connection to the physical world, the physical body, all physical elements of the physical world, but it's also our connection to God, to the higher self. So when there's a disconnect, there's not just a disconnect from us, but there's a disconnect to everyone on a collective level. So we want to always see what happens when a person is actually getting triggered from these spiritual blocks of all about not feeling worthy, not feeling good enough, because that's really where self-sabotaging behaviorism comes from. One time the person might have been abandoned. So, you know, what happens is that when we treat fear like a messenger rather than a tyrant, we can cultivate curiosity, compassion, and a willingness to be vulnerable. Now, a partner's tone, a pause, a moment, or a misunderstood intention can trigger old patterns, because a lot of times, if you were brought up in an environment where you didn't feel safe, you become hypervigilant, which just means that you became so overly sensitive to someone else's feelings, to any little change, like I just said. Now, this doesn't just happen within our relationships, in our intimate, passionate relationships, romantic relationships. It happens within any relationship that really we associate with our stability. So, a boss being hypersensitive to a boss's mood, because your stability, your survival is relying on it. And if you don't believe that you're deserving, money has no energy except for the energy that you're giving it. So unconsciously, what happens is that hypervigilance gets us to think and ruminate. That brings us back to a previous trauma where, again, reaction is plays out. The reaction is built on a previous experience, not even built on the experience that you're perceiving, because what you're perceiving is usually off because of that trauma. See, trauma, just psychic trauma, which when we have hypervigilance, believe me that there was a psychic attack, and that could have been from a parent. The attachment style was usually an avoidant. So what happens is children become very sensitive to, a parent's mood, to other things that are going to determine how comfortable that child is going to be, right? Because there's no communications and not a normal attachment style. So the child has to continually tap in to, what they feel intuitively, and then discern what they're seeing and feeling. Well, like I said, now you've conditioned yourself to tap in to what other people feel all the time. And if you are grown up in an environment where you didn't have a strong attachment, then what winds up happening is you unconsciously are looking for things that aren't really there, because you were conditioned to have to do so. So, getting a better connection to the physical body is really imperative, because it's through the physical body that you have a stronger connection to God, to the higher self. The higher self is that God part of stuff that allows you to act in the moment, to act with discernment. Most people don't act from the moment because self-sabotaging behaviorisms are built from previous experiences. So again, when the person hasn't integrated the spiritual lesson, that experience will continue to play out as a karmic loop. It's just with different people and different experiences, until the person actually does something different. So, like I said, it goes back to a person being able to really create themselves. So, it's understanding why people do what they do, and understand why you may have self sabotaging behaviorism. Remember, energy is fluid, roles could be reversed. We haven't gotten to the reading yet. Remember, the shadow healing coaching, which again, this is just a sample to help you guys understand what I do for my shadow healing coaching, which is I always channel on a topic. And today's topic is self sabotage, and how that plays out, and why we attract a person that continues to get in their own way. If you're a mirror of whom what comes into your life, why do you get? Well, again, it's because there's a belief that you're not deserving of it. Are you conscious of that? No. Like I said, a lot of our our core beliefs were built in childhood, were built in experiences that you had to live, that they were imbalanced. So remember, the same habits and behaviorisms that helped you survive and thrive in one point will sabotage you later on, because we always have to come from the present moment, what's happening now. The problem is that trauma creates detachment, disassociation. So there's fragmented pieces that we don't really remember, which is why we can have to continually go through the experience where the universe will continually give you the same experiences over and over and over again until you learn the spiritual lesson. So you have to integrate the spiritual lesson, which is see how do you contribute to the imbalance within the connection. If the connection or you're dealing with a person and it's imbalanced, what is it? And most of the time, self-sabotaging behaviorism from people that have trauma comes from hypervigilance, from being over responsive of, of paying attention to what other people's moods are. Why I say it's self-sabotaging is if you care so much about what someone else thinks, what someone else feels, what you're telling people is you don't care enough about what you think, what you feel. See, people treat us how the way we treat ourselves, not how we treat them. If you're treating someone else so nicely because you're hypersensitive to every little move because, hey, there's a sense of not feeling worthy because of the environment that you grew up in, which is why you have hypervigilance. Well, then you can see why that karmic loop would continue to play out and why you would have to have a better connection to the physical body, because getting a better connection to the body allows us to be more present, more in the moment. Trauma, as I just said, creates detachment and disassociation. So presence is something that's difficult for people that have gone through a lot of traumatic experiences. It's hard to stay present to begin with when there's a lot of chaos going on in the world. People are constantly wanting your time and your attention, and we get overstimulated. So we go in and out of consciousness. And most of the things that we do are repetitious. Everyone knows how to take a shower. Everyone knows how to use the toaster, right? We could do it on autopilot. The problem is that if we get triggered, we're out of consciousness and we react the same way, keeping us bound to the core belief of whatever that core belief was, which was sabotaging, which is usually I'm not enough, I'm not good enough. Something that's derived from lack, limited, and making you feel as if, that there's something missing when really there's nothing missing. Most people that feel like they're not enough haven't created enough of themselves. So that's where the fragmentation comes into play, where we're not our wounds. But if the brain doesn't know what we are, it's going to say, well, we're that fucked up experience, or we're that imbalance, where we're not the imbalance. We're what we choose to become. We tend to get frozen in that consciousness, and we're not reliant of it. So a healing protocol, like I said, would be doing things like breath work and better body mind consciousness, because again, you don't want to be so hypersensitive to your partner's tone or a pause in a moment and then reading into it. It makes you paranoid. It actually activates your whole adrenal system, keeping you in a place of fight, flight, freeze. There are chemical changes in your body. It's not healthy to be in a place of survival over a relationship, but that's what will happen if you were brought up in a certain environment where you felt inadequate or felt that you were abandoned. And abandoned psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. The body doesn't know the difference. The mind doesn't know the difference, just knows that trauma. So attachment patterns are just the scripts that forged in early relationships that travel with us in adulthood, again, that we're not even conscious of. So rather than trying to alienate attachment, that aims is to transform it into a secure, reflective presence that can engage with another with tenderness and discernment. Because what you see is, again, people that have that self-sabotaging behavior, they have a block with it in the intimacy department, the connection to themselves, the connection to how deep they can be with you. Because if they can't, if they're full of wounds themselves and they can't go deep within themselves, they can't go deep within inside of you, they can't give you that emotional connection. So attracting people that are avoidant, attracting people that can't give you emotionally what you need would be self-sabotaging. And not knowing, you feel like, well, I don't know. Well, you don't know, but you know that if you haven't passed the spiritual test, that you say, well, this is just what happens to me. Well, remember, it's not about changing your environment, it's about changing yourself to learn. And then you say, well, I can't then have a person that emotionally is going to give me. Well, what you will see is, yes, you would be able to, but you wouldn't need as much as you perceive that you need. But once you give to yourself, you don't need it from anyone else. And that's the irony. The fact when we keep attracting it, it's because of that core belief, and that core belief needs to be integrated. And that's really what it is. Otherwise, we wind up, you know, judging ourselves because we keep reliving in the same with the same type of undesirable life experiences. The relationships need we need to feel that we can have deep connected relationships that can grow and that can flourish, and it can, but you have to heal what's blocking you from that. And that's, like I said, it'll come out within the intimacy, the second chakra relates to your individuality, to be able to go with the flow of life. Balance is where the hips are, again, how we can go with the flow. If you're a tight ass, are you full of worry? Are you nervous? Are you detached from your body? Are you always thinking about what might happen, what can happen? Those are self-sabotaging behaviorisms. Or are you in the passion for life, not even focused on what may happen? You're just in the flow because you're doing what you love, that you're giving and receiving of love. So your focus is not on what can happen, what would happen, what did happen. It's actually just on what happens now, because only in the now do you get divine guidance. And that's when you're connected to the higher self, and the higher self will only, tell you what needs to be told in the moment, not in advance. The perception is, oh, I need it in advance. Sometimes we get intuition in advance, but we're never looking for it. It just comes on randomly. And there's always a call to action after. That's how we know that it's intuition, and we know that it's coming from the higher self. We don't have a feeling one way or the other about it at first when the intuition comes through. It's not like we're looking for a right answer. There's just a knowing. And that knowing is called claircognizance. And that claircognizance is the language of spirit, where spirit says, I'm inside of you. But the disconnect from the disassociation is what keeps you in a loop of self sabotage, because the illusion is separation, but there is no separation. You're detached from self. So again, we would have to heal that. Otherwise, what winds up happening is you're like, well, I attract people that tend to be very stubborn and very selfish, which I feel like that's the underlying energy. And it's like, well, it's like one sided. It's like where you're like, well, I don't volunteer to go into a one sided relationship, Laura. It's like, no, no one does. But if you're hyper vigilant and care so much about pleasing the other person that you're not paying attention to how you're treating yourself, and you're showing that person, it's like you're not making them do their part. Relationships are about equal give and take, reciprocity. So if you're always hypersensitive to what someone else's needs are, you know, you're not going to get a person that wants to really give in. You're going to get the energy you need, because God says, well, I didn't make you to just give. Where's yours? It's like, I'm going to make you attract a person that keeps you in that karmic cycle, which is that perception. So let's see how it played out. I always like to use my cards because lately, because it's just different. We never know what's going to come out in these cards. Okay, like this person's pride and their ego got hurt, so they wanted revenge. So automatically, self-sabotaging behavior right there. It's like because of their pride. It's the person is not their pride and ego, but that it becomes, that's what it becomes. It becomes a one-uppy game. So you're in separation from someone for a long time. And it's because you're like, you aren't being fair. You were being selfish. It was a one-sided relationship. And this person was like, wanted to make you like kind of like pay for for holding a standard, almost to be like acted as if you were spoiled for wanting for to like want to be treated a certain way. And I think it's because this person doesn't treat people nicely because it makes them feel better about themselves. The love that they have for you scares them. And so it's not that they don't have love, but it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy because it's like I'm afraid that you'll abandon me. So that I like there's a control over me. That love that that I have for you. Like you have control over me. And so that wouldn't be a problem if this person didn't have shady behaviorisms. And we know that they have shady behaviorisms because they're in their ego. It's difficult for them to process their emotions. Uh, so when a person has a lot of wounds and they haven't healed, and they're around someone that they really really like, well, what does it do? It makes the person have to look at themselves, and this person doesn't really like who they are. And so, and the feelings that they have for you are like really deep. And so again, it makes them feel really uncomfortable. So what does this person do? They sabotage the relationship by kind of taking things to the extreme, where they need to really like love themselves, embrace themselves. This person does not like themselves. They never meant to hurt you, but again, their emotions took over, and their emotions took over because they got triggered, because they get scared because of their feelings for you. You have too much control, so you have to be subservient to me, so then this way I can feel like I have control, which is sounds ridiculous, but this person's soul craves you, but they feel overwhelmed because of it. So they don't know really how to deal with it. So how do they deal with it? By avoiding, and so that's the thing. This person needs to clear their energy. you know they feel miserable and lost because they're fighting against themselves. They're not listening to their heart, their intuition. They're in their logical analytical mind, which they have a wound there. So it's going to come to survival. They have feelings for you. They're too deep, too scary. So they're so conflicted. They have so many emotions that it's almost like it's hard for them. Working less, like they need to like actually work less. I feel like this person is working a lot, trying not to put any energy into the relationship, so that almost to drown out their feelings. It's just a way of avoidance. You know, they have karmic debts that need to be paid before they really can come back to you. So that's really what it is. You met this person when they were in balance. They didn't have their shit together. They didn't have their life together. I know what they showed you, but their life isn't really as together that it is. And so from past relationships, they have karmic debt. So they might have to pay child support. They might have to, you know, pay or give time or energy, and that's why they fight with themselves, because it's like I really didn't want to get back into like a deep relationship like this, like, but I have no control because like the depth of the relationship is deep. It's like they have no control. They don't want they don't want the relationship. But what happened is that a long time ago, they lost control over their life due to a past type relationship, and they're paying that karmic debt now. And so they're not strong within themselves. And they were like, do I want to get back into like that type of connection, especially a connection that's deep, that I will have no control over myself? That if you choose to like walk away from me, then what's going to happen to me? It's time for me to cater to like it, like to you. They know that that's what they should do. They want to see you, but it's again, there's part of this person that's like, I'm sending you signs that I want you back. But what happens is that they're not really coming towards you to do that. They're still like, have codependency issues, and that could be that they drink, they do drugs, they talk to other people, that they're not strong with themselves. So it's a self-sabotaging behavior. It's like, I like you, but I don't believe I'm good enough for you. So I talk to other people, or I have addictions, which makes me not really be able to be present for this relationship. But I don't really trust that I can be in a relationship, which is why I have these addiction issues, because the person doesn't feel good about themselves, and people that don't feel good about themselves is that, this person never knew the meaning of love until they came, until they met you, which, understand, this is a love that's unconditional. It's not an easy love. They don't want to even do the healing. It's uncomfortable. They're like, the timing is wrong. Everything is wrong for this relationship. They're talking themselves out of that, because again, they're afraid. And they're also afraid to contact you, because they're like, it's almost better if I don't know how you feel, because it keeps it in limbo. It never can really end. So it's like, this person is just, they shattered, deep inside. They smile on the outside, but they're dying on the inside. It's like, because they don't really know what to do. So the problem is, you'll look at them and you'll be like, they're fine. They don't have a care in the world. They don't even acknowledge this person. Like, they keep messing up. You don't think that they know that they keep messing up? They know. And they also know they need you like a heart needs a beat, that they know, if they know that. But it's, again, it's, they're fighting it, because, but it doesn't matter, because they just can't stop thinking about you. That's the problem. It's like, but it doesn't mean that they're not fighting it. The problem is, eventually they're going to get jealous and possessive, you know, um, because they've never wanted anyone so badly. But the thing is, they also are terrified of the connection, because of how deep it is, and they have baggage from the past and wounds from the past, and it's not the right time, and it's, this person's ego, where they're remembering every detail of the last time that you guys hung out. There's a part of this person that is like I said, they have feelings. They're just fighting the process. But this is self-sabotaging behavior. This is the problem. This person knows that they messed up everything. They know, and they don't really know how to fix it. They're not somebody that's really, emotionally intelligent, but they feel guilty for the way that they treated you, and that's the thing. They need to fake their feelings like everything is okay, which they don't need to. They need to come clean. They don't need to fake their feelings. They wish I could have like a leisure coffee talk with you to actually like feel out the situation, because they're like, well, you might not want to talk to me. You might not have chemistry for me anymore. You're not, again, looking for, like, it's too good to be true. Like, this wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't be able to have this. I can't have this. I have too many issues. Again, it's their own shit. It has nothing to do with you. But, you know, understand they want to meet up with you. Are they strong enough to do that? No, I feel like they're not, because it's like they say it, but it's then what happens is I pushed you away because I don't think you want the responsibility, and I don't want the responsibility, like, which is how they look at the relationship, not because of the relationship they had with you, but look, the responsibility that they have to, like, they're paying for past karmic issues. So whether they have children, whether they have, an ex, whatever it is, they're like, oh, do I want to really get into another relationship? You're not going to want to deal with that. I don't even want to deal with this person. And you want to deal with this person? And then do I want to deal with you? What if you have a person that's hard? Do I want to deal, like, again, looking for problems and not solutions? Is just where but they're fighting. They're fighting themselves, is what you see. You know, it's safe for them to trust the situation, but they don't believe that they're safe, and that's really what it is. I don't really see this person doing anything because deep down inside they're afraid of rejection, and that's that you won't stay with me. You won't like me. There will be a problem. And I don't, I'm like, I'm not open for the heartache, is what I feel like that this person's like. Now, that doesn't mean that they'll stay in this energy. Like we said, they're fighting it. But as far as right now, they're like, I'm not going to do it. Eventually, the universe will do something that makes this person change or shift focus if you really are their person, you know. But what you see here is sometimes you're just the catalyst to help them heal that self-sabotaging behavior, like that, where they don't know what they have until it's gone. Let's see, most of you, what I feel, due to the fact that this person's so, like, wishy-washy, that the best thing is you give this person a chance and they'd still be wishy-washy, and you'd be pissed off, so, and that would be your self-sabotaging behaviorism, because they showed you all the time who they were. And so we look and we see it's like, no, you see, you're going to be moving on. Going to be moving on because it's over. Like, because it's over, like, literally. And we definitely see moving on here. So you're not going to, because the writing's on the wall, because this person, the more that they have these issues of self-sabotaging behavior, you're just going to get betrayal, like, every time, because they won't go that deep. It doesn't mean you won't hear from them eventually. I do believe that you will hear somewhere down the line, not right now, but, communication, because, hey, once you move away and the intimacy, like, there's no threat, because you gave up, you walked away. So that's when the person would come back out, because there's no expectation. There's no expectation. And the thing is, that's not fair to you to be in a relationship where there is an expectation. You should have an expectation. Now, unconditional love, there is no expectation or ownership. However, if you want to be in a relationship, you have to have, like, hold to a certain standard, and this person would not be able to, can't deal with your standard because of their inadequacy. It has nothing to do with you. They're in a bad place. I don't know if I want to get back into that. So you can sit there and wait, but that's not going to get you good results. So Spirit says this person needs resources. you know that's the problem. They need resources. They need materials, so they don't have enough money to actually be in a relationship. And that's the karma, which is why they're like, do I really want to get into another relationship? Like, they think of relationship as burden because of what's happened to them. So it's not about feelings. The feelings are deep, but they're overstimulating for a person that needs a lot of healing. that says, "Oh, I don't want this type of relationship." It's like I'll have no control. I'll have no control. There's because there's too much of a psychic and emotional connection. There's too much of this, ESP connection, and understand that. It's like whether they want to or not, they're fighting it because of their issue. So I feel like, again, you're just going to move on. You're not going to stick around because they're not really giving anything. And by the time that they realize, I just feel like, well, they'll feel the loss of it. It's like they'll feel like they know that it was their choice, but this person, like, I feel like they're just not 100% ready for the relationship that this would take. They're still part of this person that wants that believes that they have many options, that they don't have to give in. See, they get into their ego where it's like, do I really want to be in this type of relationship that's committed, that's deep, that I have to show up, that I have to look at my shit? That I have burdens, that you're going to expect things, that I want to do all this to myself, or I have many options and I don't have to give anything to anyone because I don't really believe that it's possible for me, which is what you're seeing. So I would rather not get into this connection because I don't believe that I believe that it can destroy me. That's pretty much what this person's saying. It's like, I don't want it because of that. Whatever they went through in their previous relationship has nothing to do with you. So, they took time out, and I feel like they're trying to do some healing, but I'm not going to lie. This person, it's like it's a mess. It's a hassle for them to actually do it. They need to work it out. And the thing is, it's almost like so complicated for them to figure out that they just kind of give up. And then, because they're stuck in the energy of, I want it, but I don't want it. And I don't want it because of this, this, this. So they get in their own way. And that's self sabotaging because they don't really believe that they have love. So you have to say, well, why did you attract this person into your life? You're a mirror of whom what comes into your life. And that would be your self sabotaging, you know, um, energies. So we're going to look at them because you're, like I said, you're a mirror of who what comes into your life. So it doesn't mean that you would be someone that, self sabotages because you like run away, but trying to get water from an empty well, is self sabotaging. That's really what it is. And not recognizing the patterns, unfortunately. Not having that discernment from being too close up to the picture a lot of times is what does it. But we are going to see what the inner child wounds are. So let's see. What is they? Unworthy, neglect, abuse. Well, I mean, right there, it's like we don't even need to see all the other cards, to be honest with you. You know, that like we see shame. We see sing. That one's not bad. Rebellious. So I feel like you attracted this person into your life because like belittled, like, to me, and feeling unworthy. Children don't feel unworthy unless they're brought up in a family that someone makes them feel that way, you know or they go to school with a teacher or a person that makes them feel that way, but it's affected them. This affected them to the point that it was emotional abuse, psychological abuse, feeling unworthy, and as if you were bad. Shame tells me that seen as bad, like almost like, again, that you were rebellious, like you did what you wanted to do, that you're different, that you went against the grain. And it could be anything. It could be, kids are going to be kids. they didn't grow up, when the parents were like growing up. So sometimes it's a culture thing, sometimes it's just habits, like that person's habits, where they are. It's were you rebellious? Well, obviously, if you were being psychologically and emotionally abused and you were seen as bad, you're not going to be as open with your parent. You don't have that comfortable, friendship type of relationship where you can go to your parent and tell them anything. If anything, what happened is they neglected you, like I said. And that's a form of suppression. So, which affects, by the way, that second chakra. To me, the water element is that second chakra, which is your individuality, how you can go with the flow of life through the passion for life. But when we are not strong within ourselves, we tend to like be overgiving, overdoing, especially if we were suppressed. So it's like being able to recognize that energy. However, what we saw here is everything that this person did, but I feel like again you didn't stay with this person. So obviously you did not go into that self-sabotaging behavior. The self-sabotaging behavior for you happened for going into the relationship too fast, believing this person, like they showed you an element of who they wanted you to believe that they were, but that really wasn't who they were. And so we don't have good discernment when we're so close up to the picture. So again, the feeling of like abuse and unworthiness when the person is saying, I don't know, because of my past relationship, I don't really know if I can be in a relationship. Like that's a no. That's a no, because it means that you have to compromise. You have to suppress who you are because this person's not comfortable with who they are. That's because of their experience. You have to be neglected. That has nothing to do with you. So, of course, if you were going to say something to this person, they'd see you as being a problem. Well, and understand what I'm going through. Who cares? You're not the therapy department. You're not like the fix it crew. You're, because if you stay with a person like that, the self sabotaging behavior would be you'd put all this energy out and there would be nothing for it. And you would be put in this energy of shame because they'd make you feel unworthy because they're not capable of it. And so, again, were they honest about it? No. Most of the time, people come in, oh, like they come in handicapped, like I really have feelings for you, but it's like no, unless they show you again and give you the action. And this person the whole time is like, I don't really know, like because of this, yes, I have feelings for you, but again, I don't want to do the work that I need to do, pretty much. So they stay a karmic mate. And you say, why do they do that? Because that's what this person does, and most people cave. They get what they want. People undervalue, undermine. That's why when you leave, this person is going to really feel it because they're going to say, oh, I really still have true feelings, number one, and I wasn't willing to change, but I was supposed to change. And really, that's the soul relationships, or that there's a strong passion and a connection. That's what the person's supposed to do. They're supposed to change, but instead they're too afraid due to what has happened. They're living in the past. Biggest self-sabotaging move that there is, where spirit says, yep, you needed to go through this experience to again gain the deep wisdom, and that's to not make the same mistakes. And that means, yes, walk away from someone that you knew had feelings for you, and they do have feelings for you, because you're not going to settle for less because this person doesn't know because of what has transpired to them in the past. It's not like you haven't gotten hurt. You have. Spirit says, which meant that you had to walk away and stand in unshakable faith, trust in yourself, your path, and the universe, and that the universe knows exactly what you want. Trust in divine timing, Spirit's saying, but you have to be in a place of faith where that's not the easiest thing to do when you're like, well, I really like that person, but that's why it would be a karmic test where Spirit says, are you going to choose you or are you going to choose that person? Do you love you more or do you love that person more? You better love yourself more. Spirit says, now take bold action. Take a deep step that push you out of your comfort zone. That means try something new, join something, feed yourself on an emotional level. Don't look to emotionally get it from something outside of you. You have to do it. And yes, it's going to feel uncomfortable, but again, risks are rewarding. You get to see a different outcome of yourself. You get to see yourself differently because it's all about letting go of who you were and to become who you need to become to release the past so that you don't keep reliving the same type of karmic experiences, which is what happens when you're in a karmic loop. You had to alchemize the energy, and now it's time to be vulnerable. Yes, be vulnerable, not with people, but embrace your true authenticity. Like, create yourself. Life is about creating yourself and giving and receiving of love through how you want to do that. When you become yourself, it's when you lose your time, your energy, your focus, your money, take a leap of faith in a new direction so you can really let go of the perceptions of who you are and what you're deserving of and really get what you're deserving of. And you can if you are vulnerable, because that means your heart is open, you're true, you're authentic. See, people try and wear a mask and they think, well, I'm showing this, so I should get this. No, the universe listens to what's on your heart. So you want to, again, embrace like who you are. And that just means live out loud, live boldly. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Find yourself. And you might not be able to find yourself in the same places that you got sick. So Spirit says, don't be afraid to go into uncharted waters. That's where, growth really occurs. It's just about loving yourself. So when people come into your life, you're taught them how because of how you're treating yourself. You have boundaries. It's like, and you can see who they are, what they're capable of. And already, if they're like, oh, I don't really know, your life is so full, you're like, well, I don't really have time for someone that doesn't know. I'm not going to waste my time with you. My life is full, it's rich. It's a bummer because I liked you, but you know what? My life is rich and full. And, you know, there's a lot of other people out there that I meet every day. And, I'll date one of those people. I need to release control, let go of let go of the way that it unfolds. But which is hard when you love somebody, you want to fix it. You want to, be there for them. You want to show them, oh, it's okay because they were wounded. And Spirit says, no, because this point person is not respecting you. They're getting too comfortable, and that's how it would be a self-sabotaging behaviorism for you. When meanwhile you have two people that care about each other and love each other, but this person has an anxious attachment and they're avoidant and they don't want to deal with their stuff. And they were, and you'd be somebody that has an attachment of not getting what you needed, like always being with an avoidant. Sorry, you have the anxious attachment and you're connected to an avoidant attachment. So it's just, I always get people that emotionally can't give to me, where Spirit says, because you're not giving to you. It's not about making that person be different. They would never change to be different until you change, which unfortunately would mean you need to like walk away. And it's because a lot of times people won't change until they've lost something, which is where this person is, because they're too much. I want it. No, I don't want it. I want it. I don't want it. Due to the past, this and that. And no, it's like, because the whole time that you stay connected to them, it's making you feel like you're unworthy, like you're not deserving, where spirit says you're deserving. And so we end off with one more message, which is, I am the light. Always have hope no matter the ordeal. Have faith in a better future. You turn darkness into light and you open your heart to others and to God, and become spiritually strong. And so understand that you are love. So it's impossible for you not to be able to have love. But if you're like with a person that isn't giving because of whatever their issue is, you would not want to give love. You would be depleted over time. And so, as we say, that is self sabotaging. So, we can see how that played out by attracting someone that's avoidant, by trying to be overly patient, by trying to give them the love. You can't make a person love themselves more. They have to want to do it themselves, and that's the whole thing. By you loving yourself, a lot of times is what makes that person realize too. But they're not going to realize it if you're sitting there and you're like, well, let make it easy for you. Let me pamper you. Let me make it easy, because you're telling me that you went through such a hard time. And it's, understand, it's like people come in that way. They don't stay handicapped, meaning like they come in after a relationship that doesn't work out. Yes, they're hurt, but they don't stay that way. And the thing is, you're building your relationship rules, and the rules are the boundaries that you have for yourself on the fact that the relationship's in balance. And so it never can change, because people are creatures of habit. It's much easier to go into the relationship and set the boundaries. Otherwise, trying to change that is like, you might as well forget it. So I'm going to leave that there for the reading. And always with my Psychic Soul Healer Shadow Coaching Program, I'd like to end off with breath work, and or some healing modality, because many of us have gone through traumatic experiences where we've conditioned our nervous system to be in fight, flight, freeze, in survival mode. So we have to recondition the nervous system. We know when we have that imbalance within the chakras interact with the nervous system and the endocrine system. So self-sabotaging behavior means that there's shame and guilt held within the root chakra. It affects how one perceives themselves. And so when a person doesn't feel comfortable in themselves with themselves, they try to control the relationship, which is what you pretty much saw within the reading. So one can only go with the flow of life through finding their passion for life, getting a better connection to the physical body. So my favorite type of breath work is the box breath. We want to do that because, again, that nervous system, when there are imbalances, we tend to see anxiety, we tend to see depression, like it's difficult to stay present. So doing breath work allows us to stay in the moment. Why do we want to stay in the moment? Well, again, because we can connect to the higher self. And the higher self is that God part of self that works through our intuition. So when we are actually co-creating with, you know, the universe, will say, you're actually co-creating with spirit. And that's through the thoughts that you have and where you're putting your time and your energy and your focus and your money. And so to be grounded, to get that divine knowledge in the moment, allows you to be on the path that unfolds while you're on it. So again, the teacher appears when the student is ready, and the path unfolds while you're on it. So you never know how things are going to unfold for you. You just know what you want to create, what you're trying to manifest, and you're putting the energy out there the best way that you know how. The universe is then conspiring to bring you everything that you need to get there. The self sabotaging behaviorisms would come from not being in the moment, from being hypervigilant. We talked about that as one of the sabotaging behaviorisms that continue to play out within people that have intimacy issues, which is connected to that betrayal. People that don't go deep within the relationship don't have a problem really stabbing people in the back, right? It's just the way that it is because they look at the person more from like that surface, which is usually lust and those other things, which is what this person wanted to keep the relationship in. They didn't really want to go deep because they didn't want to look at their own stuff. They didn't want you to see them for who they really are because they're embarrassed and they said, well, you probably wouldn't stay with me anyway. Self sabotaging. So, again, getting connected to your physical body, not just through being interactive in life, but getting strong within your body so that you can interact with other people and spirit without being triggered. So we would do breath work. And that breath work, we might start off with doing a box breath where we breathe in on a 4 count. I'm going to do it very simple in the beginning. Breathe in through a 4 count, then hold for about a 6 count, and then exhale on an 8 count. You might do this like 4 times. So that would look like this. And you would do that 4 times. So you can do this with me at home. I'm going to count for you. So again, when you breathe in, you're breathing in, you're holding it. You're breathing in, you're holding it. You're breathing in and you're holding it. You're breathing in and you're holding it. And then you're holding it for a 6 count, starting with the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now exhale slowly for an 8 count. We want to extend that exhale. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then again, breathe in through the nose, hold. Breathe in through the nose, hold. Breathe in through the nose, hold. And breathe in through the nose, hold. Now hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now exhale slowly. Feel your abdomen press up against your back because when you were breathing in, your abdomen was extending out like a balloon. Now, as you exhale, press that abdomen almost as if you're feeling it, touch your back. And then you can do one more time. Breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, breathe in. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale slowly. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And you're done. And so what you'll feel is relaxed. And the whole point is that you're continually signaling that automatic nervous system to shut off, to get out of fight, flight, and freeze. So you'll be able to get that divine guidance. You'll be able to get more relaxed, get yourself out of hyper arousal, which is really important because um, actions that are made when you're overstimulated usually are not the best actions. They're usually coming from, experiences of, I want to feel better, just make it stop. And we don't really get good results when we do that. So, like if we get a better connection to our body, we're able to respond more appropriately, making ourselves feel better. And we're able then to deal with people that have a hard time with our boundaries because you're getting a better connection to your physical body and it shows. So these are the reasons why that we want to do that. So this is what my shadow healing coaching program usually looks like. A little bit of channeling on a topic, an oracle reading, and then a healing modality. Now, I like to have it where people are interactive. No one was interactive with me today, but if you have any questions or you want to know anything about situation or you're experiencing that situation, you'd be able to ask me questions and, to help you dive deep within your spiritual blockages. Because the whole point of the shadow coaching program is to help you heal the effects of your trauma by integrating your spiritual blockages. And one way to heal them is knowledge. Knowledge is power. So the channel gives you that, gives you the knowledge to have discernment, to recognize when people are out of balance and or when you're feeling what you're feeling and what needs to be done in order to clear the perceptions, to clear that energy so that you don't get stuck in a karmic loop, because really that's what all that a karmic loop is that you're living the same type of experience or scenario just with different people. So you're able to fully stop that. And it's good because when you're stuck in a karmic loop, it's like that's what solidifies the core belief, because you're like, no, I keep reliving this. This is why I feel the way that I feel. It's like, but the reason why is because you do the same thing. So it's all unconscious. Like you said, the unconscious belief that brings that situation to you, and then the behaviorism, which is just a habit that you're not even aware of. So healing, requires you to do something different. But once you do something different, you get to see a different result, and that's the whole point. All right, that concludes today's coaching. Thank you for sticking around and seeing what it was. If you have any questions or anything, always feel free to reach out to me um, at lauraannschwam@gmail.com. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye. Really going. Bye.